It's Chumash Tuesday morning. Very good. It used to be there was no it was standing room only. But when Zoom started zooming with COVID, now there are more people on Zoom and they don't come. Okay, gentlemen, I'm starting the learning sponsors as we get assembled, and then we'll start the show. Year of Learning, friends of Malaskotsky, Moshe Zelig, Ben Mordechai, Martin Lippman, family in memory of his wife, Malka Chana Bat Pinchas, friends of Herb Jeremiah, Svi Ben Zev, friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel Ben Yaakov, friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai, Shlomo Ben Meir, Bella and David Adler, in memory of her father, Eliyahu Ben Yosef, a Kohen, those who were inspired by our Rebbetzin Emerita, Sheila Shapiro, Sarah Esther Malka Bat Meshulem Yisachar, Gail and Leslie Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Mushka Sprinza Bat Yosef Chaim Bechava, Hanan Ben Moshe Eliezer Vechana, Pesha Bat Shmuel Yitzchak Halevi Vitzipora, Isur Ben Yoel Moshe Hakohen Vechana, Rexford Friends of Gladys Sherman, Gutta Bat Meir, Michael Klein and Friends of Judah Klein, Yehuda Tzvi Ben Chaim, Marsha Bronner, in memory of her husband, Harav Yerachmiel Ben Shmuel, A Month of Learning by Ruvain and Susan Podolsky, in memory of his father, Tzvi Ben Pinchas, Charlie Gelfenstein, in memory of his mother, Dacia Gilbert Meir Halevi, A Week of Learning by Ruth Burian, in memory of her husband, Moshe Ben Mordechai, Susan Fruchter Kramer, in memory of her late husband, Harav Shmuel Aaron Ben Ephraim Fisher. And there's no individual days for today.
Today's the
23rd. What?
Today's the 23rd.
23rd of what?
Cheshvan.
That's Cheshvan. I'm talking about in terms of the English calendar. Okay? There's no individual days there. And man, Shemus having a Leah Cranker with your Bapti Shisham, the Taylor Company, so good to bench jack.
Oh, man.
Okay, Rabusa, first I want to just be a little encouraging. You know, many Masechtas open up this way, which is a lot of detective work. Why is that? I told you because, first of all, in the process of analysis, one of the best ways to get detail is to get it in context. So the original analysis, and here we've learned scores of halachas since the first few pages, scores about all the details of the different damagers and the liabilities. Today we have to finish up two things. One, I told you that, remember, to memorize millions of pieces of data, which is what we have to have from Sinai, so categorization is critical. You know, and so the three categorizations that we're dealing with, we're going to finish mopping up today, is the Mishnah, the Brisa of Rabbi Oshia, and the Brisa of Rabbi Chia. And understanding those categorizations has helped us. If you take a look, if you chazer it, if you go over it, it's helped us to hold on to, by categorizing, holding on to several large fields of data. That's number one. The last thing we're going to do today is one of the most famous things, and I brought a chart again for you, as I've brought in the past, which is derivations. Today, if we finish early enough, and if you have the patience, then I'll go through we're going to see today's page is actually very short because there's the Rashi this big that details everything. So I'll go through. If we have enough time, I'll show you the derivations. And once you get it, by the way, you'll have it for the whole Talmud, for everywhere in the Talmud. It's such a precious thing if you get it, and it's very important. One of the problems that again I mentioned to you that the science of the Talmud is delineated. You have, for example, we have the 13 rules of Rabbi Shmuel. You have the 32 rules of Rabbi Eliezer. You have these are principles. You can learn them. You can apply them, and they were meant to be learned and applied. One of the Perushim that's very important to learn, if you can, in the Medrash Rabbah, which when you learn Medrash Rabbah, it just seems like, oh my goodness, it's just like, you don't know where you are. You're in outer space. You don't know where things are coming from. So there's a Perush called the Maharzav, who was incredible, and he explains the Midrashim according to the 32 rules. You understand? So you can actually see the science of the derivations. Okay. Anyway, that's just a little introduction, and hopefully a little encouragement. Where are we up to? We're at the bottom. We're at the very bottom of Dalet Amud Beis, where we ended up yesterday. We said, oh, don't worry, we can differentiate the Mishnah from Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yoshia is adding all kinds of damages done by people. People. We said people to people. By people, and we said that Rabbi Chia is adding all kinds of fines, etc. So now let's take a look. We're at the bottom of Dalet Amud Beis. We left over Akasha. I had 1, 2, 3 lines in the bottom. The first word, Rabbi Chia. I said, 1 second, even Rabbi Chia. You just told me what? You told me that you told me that we could include the two types of thief, okay, in the laws of Shomachin and Shomashal. Why? Because when a watchman can be liable for being negligent. He can also be liable because he lies. He says, "Oh, I was given this thing to watch, and it was stolen." Either stolen non-violently or stolen violently. That's I don't know the words in English. Ganav and a Gazlan. A Gazlan is the guy who sneakily steals from you, and a Gazlan is the guy who takes it by force. So a thief and a robber. Yeah, whatever for what it's worth, right? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if even English I understand what the difference. Anyway, so
robbers by force.
Robbers by force. Okay, that's it. Thanks. Okay, so now, we said we can include thieves and robbers already in the laws of watchman, because when the watchman claims that it was Ganav, or he claims it was Gazlan, and he lied, he himself is called the Ganav, or he himself is the Gazlan. So Rabbi Chia Nami Hatana Le Shomer Chinam V'Shol. So Rabbi Chia also learned Shomer Chinam and Shol. So why did he mention Ganav and Gazlan? He already mentioned it. You told me. The answer is Tani Mamona Dati Teira. Okay, because he differentiates between money that comes to his hand legally and money comes to his hand illegally. The original thief or robber, they get the money, they take the money illegally. The second they get it, it's illegal. But the watchman originally gets the money legally. It's deposited with him, and then he steals it, so he differentiates. Again, all these things are, these categorizations of the mind allow a person both to remember and to differentiate. This is the way we do it. Yeah, I've discussed a lot of times, the theory of learning and the theory of teaching are the same. And for the Torah, learning and teaching is the same science. You understand? If you want to learn how to learn, you have to know how to teach. You want to know how to teach, you have to know how to learn. The two things go together. My Rebbe of blessed memory made me sit for hours and watch him teach. He used to make me sit and watch him teach for hours in order to learn how to learn. Okay. Furthermore, here we got another problem. You told me that what the Rav Oshia, his categorization, his 13 are not containing fines. Now remember, what is a fine in the Torah? Anything where you pay what you took. Okay, when you pay what you took. Okay, that's called mammon. That's called a monetary payment. But any place where you pay a multiple of what you took, a fraction of what you took, or you pay a set price, a set amount, that's called a fine. Those are fines. So you told me what? The Rosh is, he's not learning fines. I said, 1 second, Adam Zomi Demono, 1 second. But conspiring witnesses is a monetary payment. If they lie and they say, oh, we saw you take a loan for $30, how much do they pay? $30. They pay what they took. So it's not a fine. Why didn't he learn it? Listening, he should learn it. He said, no, get out of here. Someone like Rabbi Kiva, the Omer, because he's the opinion like Rabbi Kiva. A rule is in the Torah that a difference between a fine and a monetary payment is a monetary payment. I admit that I owe the money I still have to pay. By a fine, if I turn myself in before they take it from me, then what? Then I don't pay the fine. So see, he says what? He must hold like Rabbi Kiva that conspiring witnesses are really a fine. And it makes sense, by the way. Take a look, because conspiring witnesses never took anything. They didn't take anything. If they claim that, oh, we saw you borrow $100, they never took the $100. So it's really easy to look at. It's one of the ways. It's really easy to look at conspiring witnesses as a fine rather than as a monetary payment. And Rabbi Kiva holds it's a fine, and they don't pay if they now. What do you mean? If they were caught, how can they? What do you mean? If they're caught as conspiring witnesses, how did they turn themselves in? They were already caught. The answer is what happened was they were, according to Rashi, it's a big argument though, but according to Rashi at least, what happened was they were convicted of Eidim Zoma in one court, but before the victim ever got to claim it, they ran away. They went to another court and turned themselves in. And according to that, you have to say what? That the final obligation doesn't come until the victim makes the claim. Otherwise, they can't. It's impossible to turn themselves in. Rashi has to hold that the obligation only comes when the guy makes the claim, as opposed to Tosos and others. Okay, now. He says, get at it 1 second. If you want to tell me if Hoshea is a Rekiva man, well, then he should follow Rekiva all the way. We learned what? You just told me what? Earlier, yesterday, we said that we differentiate between man damaging a property and man damaging a man. Why? Because it has different rules. A man damaging property pays for damages. A man damaging a man pays damages plus 4 other things. But when a man damages whether an ox damages an ox or an ox damages a man, it's the same payment. You pay damages. We said 1 second, it's not true. If you hold like a big kiva, then he should have differentiated, because even by an ox, there's a difference between an ox damaging a man and an ox damaging a person. Why? Listen, trade gavni shor. He says, if you hold like a big kiva, you should learn 2 types of ox. Why? Listen, shor dazik shor. Because according to Rabbi Akiva, there is a difference. There's a difference between an ox damaging an ox. But this thing short does it them, and this would be an ox damaging a man. Why? The Tanakh, because we learn. So I'm going to say it outside, then read it inside, because the case is a little strange over there. But the point is like this: Rabbi Akiva holds that even though what normally an unwarned ox the first 3 times, the unwarned ox only pays what damages of goring only half. Okay, only half. So we would say what same thing, saying the first 3 times by a human. Also, what only half. Rabbi Akiva holds no. When an ox gores a man, he always pays full damages, even from the first time. That's not the case of that mistake. Because the case there was the ox that we're going to learn it later. The ox damages the man damages the ox. So look, okay, good. So if the damage of the man, if the damage of the ox of the man is greater, so you have to pay it. But he's going to say what? Should he pay half or should he pay whole? Rabbi Akiva holds he pays the whole remnant. And everything, essentially, the bottom line is you have to pay everything, and there's no half damages when ox to a man. So if that's true, hold on. That's another point. But the point is like Rabbi Akiva has it. Rabbi Akiva is different. So Rabbi Akiva says what? Unlike the other opinion that any non-warned ox, the first 3 times pay when it does malicious damage, it pays half damages. When it damages a man, you pay full damages from time number 1. Why? The Tanakh, because we learn Rabbi Akiva Omer, Afshar Tam Shechava B'Adam. Okay, if I had a case where the ox damaged the man, the man damaged the ox, and the ox was not forewarned, which you would think that he has to pay only half damages for damaging the man. Mashalim wasn't as a shalom. No, whatever the remnant is, whatever there's more, which is the bottom line is what he has to pay the full damages to the man from the first time. So you see what? So there's a difference between ox damaging an ox and ox damaging a man. The Gemara says you're right, but listen, this is very important in categorization. Is what I mentioned the last couple of days. In the mind, it's better not to differentiate. I'll explain to you why. Why? It says because the truth is, Rabbi Akiva broke his own fist. His strange law is not as totally strange because we really hold that an ox that damages a man doesn't get the leniency of a non-warned ox. Well, what's usually when a non-warned ox damages another ox? Not only there's two leniencies. One that pays half damages, and it never pays half damages more than its own value. It pays half damages limited by its own value. If its value is less than half damages, it's only going to pay its own value. But now, so Akiva's got a strange law we're going to see, because he holds, on the one hand, he said that a non-warned ox that damages a man pays full damages, but it doesn't get the second leniency. It's not limited by the value of the ox. It pays full. But it pays full. But it is not. But it is that part. But it is limited by the value of the ox. It pays full damages, but
only the value.
only the value of the ox. Which is now he gave it half and half. On the one hand, he gave it a law like what? Like a warned ox. On the one hand, the law like a non-warned ox. In the one respect, an ox damaging a man is the same as an ox damaging an ox. Why? Because it doesn't pay from the general household, only from the animal. On the other hand, an ox damaging a man is different than an ox damaging an ox. Why? Because he pays full damages. So now, where's the categorization better? So the Gemara says, since he broke it into 2, the Tanya, as we learn, why? Okay, Rabbi Akiva said, you might think that once I told you that a non-warned ox that damages a man pays full damages, you might think what he also pays not limited by the body of the ox. The answer is no. Okay, he only pays according to the value of the body of the ox and not from the general household. So now in the mind, here's the answer. You said, 1 second, if you tell me that according to Rabbi, you're holding Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva holds that the law of an ox to a man is different than an ox to an ox. Shouldn't you have differentiated? The answer is no, I shouldn't. Why? Because it's not really differentiated. It's only part. That's not enough to break up the categorization. Rather, I should leave ox to man as if it's ox to ox, because it only has in one little detail. It's different. So better to leave it in the category. This is another time when we have more theoretical time. We can discuss these things. Pedagogy. I don't mean to be a broken record. Pedagogy is an essential part of learning. You know what I'm saying? Don't make a mistake. Teaching is an essential part of learning. If you don't like here, I'll give you an example. We talk about it's what's greater. You learn to learn, or you learn in order to teach, right? So you think learning to teach is, oh, because you're going to get to teach. Oh, you learn to teach, you learn in order to do. It's a better learning. No, you're making a mistake. Think, oh, so the main thing is doing. If you learn in order to do, that's great. Yeah, it is. But you think the main point is because you're going to do it. Are you sure it's great you're going to do it? The real point is what? Learning when you figure out how to do it is a much better learning. When you're learning and you figure out how to teach it while you're learning, that's a better learning. Am I communicating? You're thinking learning in order to do, oh, it's a great thing because you're going to do. It's not great you're going to do. But what's great about learning in order to do is that when you learn, it's a better learning.
When you do, you learn.
That's for sure. But I'm saying something else. When you, I want you, I want you to know something. Yeah, I want you to know something. When the Jews went, Jews had to start had to run away to places. They never went away. They run to Mongolia, places where the sun, we got places where the sun. The sun barely sets. All these places, they went to places where the Jews never lived. They don't know where they don't. Scandinavia. There's no Abdullah. So that when they ran to various Gedolim, so we said, look, they took some time till they figured out and they answered them. When they went to the Chazon Ish, listen to this. He ran to his bookshelf and he took down his notebook and he gave me the answer. Why? Because when he learned it, he thought about it. You understand the point? I want to tell you a story, and this I read inside. But okay, look, who knows what's true, but this I read inside. There was once a guy who had a kid in Rabbi Feinstein's yeshiva, that's all, in New York. So the guy, he decides he doesn't decide they're going to take the kid out of yeshiva. They want to send them to a public school. So he comes to Rabbi Feinstein, he says, listen, he's a mathematician, the guy. So he comes, he says, listen, my wife and I really decided we're going to take our kid out of the school. And I know you're not going to want him to leave yeshiva. But I'm going to show you that even according to the Torah, I'm correct, that we should take him out. So he says, Rav says, how do you figure that? He says, because the Gemara tells us that every person has three partners: the mother, the father, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it's three partners. He says, so me and my wife have 2 votes, and Hashem has 1. So even though Hashem wants him in the yeshiva, me and my wife don't, we win. So Rav Feinstein said, yeah. He said, but if you realize, he says, that Hashem has 1/3 vote in each of you, so you see that he has more votes in your kid than you do. If you figure out the math, it's 5 9ths. Hashem has 5 9ths, and they only have 4 9ths. So the guy was so impressed that Rav Feinstein said this thing, he left him in. That's the story. So now I don't know the truth, but I don't know the truth. But when people tell the story, it's that on the spot, Rabbi Feinstein figured it out. I don't think so. Not that he couldn't, but I don't think so. I think that when he learned originally, you understand that there's partners, he understood already that the partners had partners. You understand? And he thought about it before. I can't prove what I said. I'm inclined to think the other way. Not that he couldn't have figured it out on the spot. I'm inclined to think that he didn't. I'm inclined to think that was part of the learning. When he learned it, that's how he did it. Okay. In any case, okay, now we're almost done with the categorization. So before we said 1 second, you told me that Rav Oshia doesn't learn any fines. And you told me therefore one. So ones is what, for example, a guy rapes the virgin. He pays a set fine 50. The guy seduces the virgin. He pays a set price 50. Motzi Shemra, this is really not supposed to be on the list, by the way. This doesn't belong here, but we said it anyway because that's how categorization works. Remember I told you yesterday. Sometimes you put things on the list that don't belong there. And Motzi Shemra, what the guy who falsely accuses his wife of not being a virgin, the Mamona, 1 second, those places, since when you damage a person, in addition to the fine, I still have to pay damages. Here, when a guy rapes the girl, he still has to pay damages. He has to pay for embarrassment. He has to pay for lowering her value. He has to pay for the pain that he caused. So you see, there is a monetary payment here, even though you're right that this is a fine. There's a set price 50, but there's also a normal monetary payment. So why didn't Rav Hoshia learn it? He should have learned it. The Mamon, those ones are monetary. This he should learn it. I said, nah, get out of here. Now I want to explain it outside, you say it inside. You're right. We're going to answer. He didn't list them in their unique formation. In other words, a seducer also pays a monetary, or a raper also pays monetary. But the actual name of the payment he mentioned. When you say since he mentioned embarrassment, since he mentioned damages, he mentioned this. The category was there. You're right. The unique instance of a raper or of a seducer, he didn't, but the category was there. That's the answer. I says, look, Manasha, come on. Whatever you want to say, it's fine. And as if you're talking about that the lowering in value, which is the same, it's a big problem here, but it sounds like lowering in value, which is that she's no longer a virgin, but it's been repeated. But I have a way out. I'll talk about it in a minute. Okay, Tonale, we already learned it. He wrote that in his book. He wrote damages. Okay, devaluation. If you're talking about the pain he caused, okay, Tonale, he wrote pain. Okay, Eboshi, he talks about embarrassment. Tell he wrote it. He just didn't write the pain or the embarrassment of the seducee or of the rapee. He said, but he wrote the category. Okay, he said, right, the victim. E. E pagam, he says, and if you talk about what the fact that she's no longer a virgin, that her values diminish, I know nezek. That by definition is what again he wrote nezek. Everybody is worried because it repeats itself. It said next. So some people say nezek doesn't belong. The original nezek never belonged here, and only pagam. But he realized that in theory, just off the record, it could be that here in a rape you could have physical damage also. So you could have physical damage in addition to what the damage of her no longer being a virgin. That's just in case your friends question you, you can show you have a sharp answer. Huh?
Emotional damage.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. I'm saying everybody has a kasha here because they listed devaluation and pagam. Pagam is devaluation. The answer is I'm saying it could be there's two different ones. One's the evaluation that she's no longer a virgin. One's the evaluation you could have hurt her physically. You understand? Okay. Anyway, so what are you going to say? Kanasa? So what are you going to talk about? The only thing left he did mention is the actual fine, the set price of 50. He says Kanasa Lokamar. He's not talking about. Look, furthermore, here we have all the categories. What about we learned in Rav Tia, Matame, a person made the truma unclean with a sheretz. He mixed up truma with non-truma. Amanasek, all these things, he damaged the value. They're inedible. Or Amanasek, or he made his friend's wine, libation wine that's forbidden, the mamonu. Oh, those are monetary payments because he has to be listening. He has to pay the damage. The Gemara says, "I'll tell you what it is." Now, I'll take a break. We have a famous argument. We're going to come upon it again and again and again. Is hezek she'ino nikar a Torah obligation? We know the rabbis obligate people. What does it mean when I damage something in the way that you don't see anything? You don't see any damage. You don't see any damage. If I make his stuff unclean, it's legally he lost his value. But you examine that grain, you don't see anything wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. I mix this grain up with other grain. What one's true and one's not. You don't see anything. So we have a famous argument. We know for sure that the rabbis obligate, those kind of damages. But does the Torah obligate those damages or not? So it's an argument. It's going to come up again and again. Later we'll learn the actual locus. Okay. So Gemara says, he says, what about these things? So he says, no, think it through. Whatever you go, you shouldn't have mentioned it. He has a sheno nikar. Okay, Shmei Hazek. If he's of the opinion that unrecognizable damage, undiscernible damage is called damage that you have to pay for, Hatani Le Nezek, then he already taught it because he said you have to pay the devaluation. You devalued the truma from $100 to zero, whatever you did. So he has to pay.
No, okay, he can still sell it to a company.
No. He made it tummy. Yeah. Okay. Okay. He has a shena nikra lo shmei has a whatever. Good, right. But he says, and if unrecognizable is not damage, okay, have a kanasa. Then by definition, the only reason you're paying because the rabbis made you pay it is a fine. It's a fine. A kanasa lokamari is not talking about it. I lemekos over here has a shena nikra lo shmei. So 1 second. From the fact that Rabbi Chia in his 24 did mention making the truma tame, etc. So it must be that he holds that it really is damages. Why the ishmei it's not damages, that we're not legally from the Torah obligated to pay for unrecognizable damage, undiscernible damage. Why the ishmei hezek? Because if it was damage, I'll tell you the nezek. He already learned nezek. So if he learned damages and he learned making the truma unclean, okay. So it must be that he must hold that it must be hold that he must be hold that it's not called damages. Gemara says no, it's not true. He could really hold its damages, and he still learned damages and still learned again making it unclean. Why? Here, categorization, Rabbi said. I don't want to be a broken record. Here, on Hezekah the Minkara, but on Hezekah the Minkara, because he wanted to differentiate in our minds for our memory and understand there's a difference between damage which is discernible and damage which is not discernible. I want to have both of those things in the mind. I told you, people who learn Torah live much longer than other people, even if they die young.
It seems that way.
No, they live longer even if they die young. Why is that? Because they're in the same minute they're living many, many times. You understand? When a person learns the Torah, so here they come into the room. No, this is a private domain, public domain. There's a partition. There's not a partition. The guy looks at the room. He's looking at 50 billion things. His experience of the moment is 100 or 1,000-fold. Am I communicating? You can have a Ben Torah who lives 50 years could be 500 years old when he dies. He can be 1,000 years old. I'm not kidding. And a person who lives till 100 could be 6. I'm dead serious. What I'm saying. You see, the richness of the experience. The more Torah person learns in the moment, they're living many lives. They're living many lives in the moment. And you understand when you learn all the cases and all the experiences. I'm dead serious. What I'm saying. It's true. You live thousands of years if you learn. You live thousands of years. If you live 100 years, you're going to live 1,000 years, 10,000 years. It's a long time. Okay, so over here, yeah. So all these differentiations make a big, big, big difference. That's the world doesn't know we're talking. They think about learning. They don't know what learning is. Learning is the here. They think. Oh, learning and doing. Learning is the biggest doing you can ever do. There's no more. No more intense experience of life than when a person is actually connected to the Torah. I just want to bring it out. So these things which seem like abstractions, but they are abstractions. Abstractions are a great gift, but that's not my point. You're talking about intense experience of life. It's happening. Okay, a little further. Now, get ready. Now we're getting towards the end of it. Now, whenever we say a number, we are upset. You go to school, they say, okay, children, there are 3 rules for that. 1, 2, thank you very much. We told me 3 rules. I know how to count, thank you. We in yeshivas, we don't like that. We don't let people go, there are 3 rules for this. Tell me the 3 rules and I'll count myself, thank you. So when a Mishnah writes, there are 4 categories, and then list 4 things. I say, thank you very much. I know how to count. You understand? What do you give me the number for? So whenever we say a number, we have to ask why the teacher told me the number, because I can count myself. Stop wasting my time. So the answer is what? So our Mishnah can easily explain why it's not superfluous that our Tana taught us 4 and then listed 4. Tana minyana limeute Rabbi Yoshia, because he wants to make the 4 to clarify that he's categorizing the 4 as opposed to the famous 13 of Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yoshia, Tana minyana limeute, and Rabbi Yoshia who told me 13. Why is he wasting my time? Because he wants to let you know I'm doing 13 and I'm not doing what? And I'm not doing the 24. Lemuti Dorichi wants to exclude. Not that he doesn't believe that they're true. You understand? But I don't want to talk about this. I'm categorizing. He's letting us know that I'm making a particular category. Like we said, I'm not including fines. Now, but he's the biggest group. There's no more groups after him. 24 was the limit. So why did he have to tell me 24? What's he coming to exclude? The answer is coming to include 2 things that nobody. It's not a new list, but 2 things that exist, but he doesn't want to categorize. Why? Lemuti Moser. 1, when a Jew goes to when the Goyim are coming to foreclose on Jewish properties, they're stealing, and the Jew comes and shows them up. Here's Chaim Yankel's money. One Jew shows the guy where to find the other guy's money. It's big damage. Okay, umafaga, or when the Kohen shechs the animal for the wrong reason, he shechs it, he's going to sprinkle the blood for the wrong, he's going to for a different sacrifice. So he ruins. So the Kohen destroys the Israel sacrifice by thinking the wrong thing. Okay, and he's not including that, and he's not including also the case where one Jew shows the guy where to find the Jewish property to steal it. We're listening. So 1 second, why shouldn't they put it on? What's wrong? They're perfectly good categories of damage. Why shouldn't they put it on? The answer is Bishlam Mafago. I can understand why he didn't want to put on the Kohen having the wrong thought. The Kodashim Lama Kamari, because he doesn't want to put in sacrificial things. Why? Because it's not good for your head. It's not good for your head. I need clear categories. I have to remember millions of things. I hope I'm getting home over here. My head is a precious territory. My head's a precious territory. I need clear, delineated categories. Why? Because I haven't got the time to go chasing down lists all the time. I have to have a way to keep it in mind. My brother, you should live with me. I hope you meet him one day. My brother never memorized formulas in mathematics. Why? Because he understood the theory so well. Every time he went to an exam, he generated the formula from scratch. It's easier. Why clutter your head with things you don't have to remember? You know, it's easier. Now, Ella Moser, my time in Lotani, but okay, so I understand he can leave out holy, obviously, but Moser, one Jew showing the other the guy the property, why do you put it in? The answer is Shani Moser the Dibur, because it's a category that one. It's only damage done by speech without any action, or be Dibur or Lo Kamar. He doesn't want to categorize in this category that from my memory, I don't want to categorize damage done by speech alone. So I said, 1 second. If that's true, I got a kasha on you. Well, what's the shame of the word? 1 second. When the husband slanders his wife and says she's not a virgin when she was, and how did he do it? By speech. How can we put it in? How can we put it in? The answer is no, you're mistaken. And this is according to one opinion, but Katana he learned it, what shouldn't be on the answer is no, you're wrong. It really does have an action. Why? The bura the ispe meiser, because according to one opinion, that slander is only liable when he lived with her first. If he didn't live with her and he slandered, he wouldn't pay. So it has to be. So this, according to one opinion, According to one opinion, the husband who slanders his wife is only liable once he's lived with her. He has to live with her and then slander. He didn't live with her, so it really is. It's not speech alone. It's speech with an action of what? Of intercourse. Now, furthermore, 1 second. Still, why didn't Zomi the word less by my? So 1 second. Conspiring witnesses. That's that. They didn't do anything. That's why I mentioned. It's also just talking. But Katani, why he's taught that one? And it says no. It's still different. Why? Awesome. Less by my. So you're right. And this is just such a Jewish answer. Even though there's no action, Rahmana Karimasa, but the language of the pasuk still categorizes it as speech. Why? As action. I meant. Like the Ksiva, as it's written, Vasisim lo kasher zamam, due to him as he conspired lasos to do lachiv to his brother. So the Torah still differentiates, and I want you to understand why it's important. Because again, in my mind, the mind's a holy place. So that category, you understand, it fits because I'm putting all the things action. Oh, and I have the pasuk of action. You understand? So I stick it into the action categorization. Okay. Furthermore. I can understand now. Now, 1 second. We have one more problem. Is we're back to the beginning of the Masechta. Our Tana, we said what? He says Tana Avos. He used the nomenclature of Avos of the special categories. Mechlaldika told us, which always implies that what? Which usually implies what? That there are subcategories. El Rabbi Avos Mechlaldika told us according to the second two categorizations of the Oshia and Rechia. Okay, Rechia. So let's say I knew what are the subcategories? There are no subcategories here. That's it. They are what they are. There's no subcategories. Rabbi Abba, he says what this is. Don't worry. Here the language is used differently. It's not used avos to show subcategories, but rather what? Kulam kavos l'shalom meitav. They are like the avos in the sense that what? They are prime categories that they have to pay from the finest property and not from lesser property. Okay, and that's also a valid use of language. My Tanya. Now, why is it though? How do we know? And I want to explain this simply outside. We'll get inside. How do we know that? Where is it written that you have to pay from the best property? It's only written by one place, by the damages of eating and by the damages of a rego. In that case, it says he has to pay from the best field. How do I know all the other ones? The answer is that by simple comparison, okay, by like I told you, by paradigm, by paradigm. No, not by exertion, by paradigm. I learned from eating and trampling to the other things in the Mishnah. From the other things in the Mishnah, I learned by exertion. Here's the difference. In other words, from eating and trampling by paradigm, by paradigm, I learned to the other things in the Mishnah. Once I have all four things in the Mishnah, you'll see an interesting thing. Every single one, the four things in the Mishnah, and every single one of the things on the list of the whole 24 that we just discussed, every one of them has one of the following words, either tachas, or nesina, or yishalem, or kesa. Okay, the answer is what? They says, acha, tachas, nesina, yishalem, kesa. There's always one of these word bridges. That's exer shava, and therefore, from the four in the Mishnah, we can get to all the other 20. Okay, good, we're done. Now, Rabbosai, I'm going to take 2 minutes. We're doing good time-wise. Now, I brought you a chart, and I'm going to work it on. I remember I want to explain what I explained yesterday. You know what? Let's take a minute because I'm going to read this next part's going to read so fast. It's going to be a minute. Let me give you papers. Yeah, pass these out. Yeah. Yeah, take half to this side. Take half to this side. We have two rules in the Torah. One is the binyan av from one pasuk, and one is the binyan av from shtei psukim. I can by textual comparison, by legal comparison, I can learn from 1 to 1 or learn from 2 to 1. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. Okay, take a look at column 1, line 1, in the middle. Look at the middle of line 1. Okay, take a look. If the source lacks a quality that should bring about the law, yet equals, it has the law. You don't have enough? There's more. There's more coming back. Here, more coming back. Okay, so look at the middle figure on line 1. If S, the source in the Torah, lacks a reason to be chayav, but it gets the law, the result is that a derivative that has plus 1, if for example, let me show you, it gets the law. I'll give you an example. Look, so let's fill in the blanks. Let's say eating, which has no intention to do damage, it lacks a reason to pay, gets the law, but it pays, even though it had no intention to damage. Look, then Karen Goring, which has +1, has intention to do damage, it certainly gets the law. Good? We see what we just did? It's fine. Okay? Okay? It's fine. Now, the other way, look at the last figure on column 1. Let's say if I say, if Goring has intention to do damage against the law, look at the derivative. I look at eating, which doesn't have intention to do damage, it doesn't get the law. Okay? Make sense? Now, however, I want to show you something. Look at line 3. One second. It'll make you, I want to tell you one thing. What I'm telling you, I'm going to do now, because if you would see the next Rashi, you'll go crazy. You have to understand again here. If the Torah gives a law to a case that shouldn't get the law, then I can assume that a case that should get the law certainly gets the law. So if the Torah wrote eating, then I have to pay, right? And had no intention to do damage, you really shouldn't have to pay. But the Torah wrote that nevertheless eating has to pay, then goring, if the Torah hadn't written goring, which has intention to do damage, even though the Torah didn't write it, I would know that it certainly gets the law.
That'd be a kal v'chomer.
That's a kal v'chomer. Or I could say simply, or I could say the other way. Or I could say, look, here, I could say, okay, good enough. Now, what if I tell you that, look at figure 2 on line 3. No, I'm sorry. 1 second. I'm going to just go. I apologize. Look at figure 2 on line 2. This won't work. If I say, look at what happens. I say to you, the source, eating, which lacks intention to do damage, -1. I would think to say what? But certainly D, okay, goring, which has intention to do damage, should be obligated. But I stop it. Why? Because I say, look at the top. S is -1, but it's +2. Eating has a different reason why it's high. You know why? Because it gets pleasure. That's why the guy was obligated to watch it. And when I look down, look at the derivative. Is goring get pleasure? No. So I have to say what? Even though on the one hand, it has its reason, since it lacks the reason of the source, it's out. You see what's happening? So had I not written it, I wouldn't have known it. You see what we just did? I just did with you what we did in the Gemara 20 times. You see what we did? Take a look. Okay? Okay? It makes sense? Look, again, here, look at line 1, figure 2. Source. If eating, which doesn't have intention to do damage, nevertheless gets the law you have to pay, arrow down. Certainly D, goring, which has intention to do damage, gets the law that you have to pay, even though it wasn't written in the Torah. That's what I thought. But look at figure 2 on line 2. No, I say to you, get out of here. S, which is eating, even though it doesn't have intention to do damage, okay, line -1, it gets the law. I would have thought to say D, which has +1 intention to do this, should certainly get the law. I say, yeah, but get out of here. Eating has +2, it gets pleasure. And goring, look at D, is -2. What's we get? No law, doesn't come through. You see what we're doing now? But I want to show you one more trick. So far, so good? Okay, so far, so good? So that was, I showed you learning 1 from 1, or I can't learn 1 from 1. In a minute, we're going to talk about learning 1 from 2, okay? Give me a minute, and we're going to do it, okay? Now let's read inside, okay? And I'll come back to these pages, okay? The next page reads in a minute, but it's the working out, okay? Let's work. The Gemara said, Lo haya shar kaya mabe, the leniency of an ox scoring is not like the leniency of, let's say, 2. My kamar, what is it saying? What it means is, this is what it's saying. Why don't you just write one of them? Why don't you just write goring, for example? Okay? And the other can be learned out without the Torah writing it. I would know it myself. For example, if you wrote goring, you have to pay. I'd say also what? Eating has to pay. Goring is your property to damage, you have to pay. Eating is your property, you have to pay. So therefore he came and said, no, I can't learn 1 from 1. Why? Because why? Because you want to say, well, just like goring has to pay. So if I didn't write eating, I'd have to pay. It's not true. Why? Because you can't. You know why goring has to pay? Because it has intention to do damage. It doesn't have the leniency of eating, which is what? That doesn't have intention to do damage. And therefore, if like I took a guy to court and said, listen, you annihilate my stuff, and said, sorry, God said you have to pay when you gore, when you have intention to do damage. When my animal ate it, didn't have intention to do damage, I don't have to pay. So had Hashem not written it, I wouldn't have known it. Let's do another one. Why did you double up? Below when the Mishnah continued, it said, and not this, not the shore, and not the mava, which have life, okay, are not like what? The fire, which doesn't have life. What's it bothering to say it for? Here's he says, this is what it's saying. I thought, listen, it's easy. Let the Torah write just these two things. Let it write shore and maveh, and I'll know fire from it. Okay, but why? With mehatzad. Okay, for example, let's say the ox is goring and the mava is eating. Okay, like we were using. Okay, so I say, listen, you want to tell me what? Now watch, get ready. I want you to see something. I want you to see something beautiful. Look at figure 2 on line 3. Okay? I tell you what, goring. One second. Here. Figure 2 on line 3. In the source, for example, just for argument's sake, fire has is not a lot. It has no intention to do damage or it's no pleasure. Pardon me. I'm sorry. Eating has no other force mixed into it. Okay, so fire, which has another force mixed into it, you should certainly be obligated. So I say to you, no, get out of here. But take a look. He says, but eating. I said goring or eating. I can't remember. Anyway, let's say goring. Goring has no other force mixed into it. S is -1.
What is S sub 2? S sub 2 means what? S sub 2.
I'm going to get there. I didn't let me get there. I'm going to do it for you in a second. S is always source. So source is, and source 2 is source 2. Okay? So here, if let's say goring doesn't have another force mixed into it, let's just say for argument's sake, okay? And fire, D, does have it. So it should get the law. Just if goring, which doesn't have it, certainly fire. So get out of here. No. Look, S is +2. Goring has intention to do damage. What? And intention to do damage. And fire doesn't. So I say, get out of here. Don't worry. When I look at source 2, look now at the top line. If I look at, for example, eating also doesn't have intention to do damage. Nevertheless, it gets the law. So I can use eating to prove that intention doesn't matter. Hope I'm communicating. I use a second source to prove that the unique quality of source 1 doesn't matter. Now watch. Okay, I know. It's like okay. Now, if you look, I'll show you something incredibly beautiful. Look at figure 2 on 5. If I say to you, watch this, I can do it doubly. I say to you, I'm going to do this inside with you 1 minute. 1 second. Now, just wait a second. But I want to show you what we're doing. If I can show you, every time I show you that the source has a reason that the derivative doesn't have, the derivative doesn't get the law unless it's written. It doesn't get the law it's written. Sometimes, even if the derivative doesn't have the quality that the source has, if I show you a second source that has the same law, but also lacks that quality, the second source will prove what? That the quality of source 1 doesn't matter. I can also do it in a double way. I can show you that what? Source 2 proves that the unique quality of source 1 doesn't matter. And source 1 proves that unique quality of source 2 doesn't matter. And therefore, only the commonality between source 1 and source 2 matters. And therefore, the derivative will get the law, even though it lacks the unique quality of source 1 and lacks the unique quality of source 2. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the law will still go through. Look at here. Look at this. Look at, for example, look at the first figure on line 5. The source has quality 1. The derivative also has quality 1. We're fine. But the source has quality 2. So the derivative lacks it. So it shouldn't get the law. But if you look at the source 2, what? It's also lacking 2. So the source 2 doesn't matter. But 1 second. Source 2 has quality 3. Maybe when don't you have to have 2? When you have 3. So I said, don't worry. Source one, which has two, lacks three. So source one proves that what? That three doesn't matter. And source two proves that what? Source two proves that two doesn't matter. So now, even though the derivative lacks two and lacks three, it doesn't matter. It's the commonality that matter. You see what I'm doing? Okay, so that's called a binyan from one pasuk or a binyan from two psukim. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Okay, let's take a look. That's one way to explain it. Now, let's do this. Let's do this inside. All right, so you see, you told me right to if I take the idach and the other one come from it. The answer is Hadar. It came back and it said I cannot learn one from two. Why? Because if the two things both have, I didn't put this on the chart. If the two things both have a quality, so listen, you want to learn, for example, you want to learn fire from eating and from goring, but eating and goring both have a number three that fire doesn't have. What is that? They're both alive. That's something you got to watch. And a fire is not alive; doesn't have a mind of its own. So therefore, I can't learn it out because now both sources have a stringency. So neither source can prove that stringency number three doesn't matter. Now, okay, that's what it says. Now, Amar Rava says something amazing. He says, "Kulu, the real truth is that every one of the 24 kishad is every one of the things in the Mishnah. Pardon me, and the things in the Mishnah, kishad is bar beinayu. If I would use bar the pit as one of the two, achikula b'matzad. I can always bring out every single one, but by the commonality, like I told you, we'll use two. Two will always prove everyone except for goring. Why is that? Because goring will always have a leniency that will exempt it. Why is that? I can always say malakulu. All the damagers, they are damagers from the first minute. There's only you have to watch. Okay, but remember, but an animal that hasn't gored is not really considered to be dangerous until after three times. So it'll always be more lenient than everything else. But we have an opinion that says what? No, that goring, no matter what, is always more stringent. Why? Than everything, because it has intention to do damage. So that even care and even goring can come out from all the others. Now, I'm going to learn quickly just so we finish the page, and I'm going to do this inside. You'll see in a second. Okay. 1 second. So if you tell me then that any two could have, if any two I could have learned all the four. So then I could have learned everything. So then why did the Torah write out all four? The answer is you're right. To know that they're obligated, I would have known without all four. But the Hossein, to know the particular laws, I wouldn't have known had the Torah not written them. Let's just quickly say what are the special laws that I wouldn't have known. Karen, okay, Hashem had to write goring, even though it could have been derived, because I had to know there's a difference between what? Between a non-warned ox and a warned ox. Shane Verego, eating and trampling, why do you have to write in the Poch B'Shir? Because they have a special rule. They're exempt in the public domain, unlike goring, which is not exempt in the public domain. Bore, a pit, why do you have to write it? Because in order to what? Because for most opinions, that a pit is only obligated for damage done to the animal of the man, but not for utensils that break in the pit. But what about the minority opinion of Yehuda, who holds that a pit is obligated even for utensils? So what's the special law? If Tarbos Adam to tell me what? That a pit, when a man dies in a pit, the owner of the pit is not responsible. Adam, why do you have to teach me, man? I could have derived it as obligation. Because I have a special chiddush, and a man, in addition to damages, he pays what for? Special payments, so of doctor bills and embarrassment and pain and being idle. Aish, why do you have to tell me fire? Because there's a special rule that fire, if the man's fire goes to the other field and it burns the grain with stuff that was hidden in it, he's only responsible for the grain and not for the stuff that was hidden. Rabbi Yehuda, this came on with but what about the minority opinion of Yehuda holds that what? That fire does have to pay even for stuff that was hidden that it burnt up? So why do you have to have fire? Now, to teach me this law, okay, when the fire scorched the earth, his plowed ground, or also singed his stone. All the other things, when they damage something that's fitting for it, has to be food that the animal should eat or not eat. Over here, even though this is not the land of the stones is not good food for the fire, nevertheless, it's also obligated. Now, if you're not running, I'll take a minute. You have a minute? You want to try? You're officially, you're everybody's school's over. But if you want to try, I'll do it with the inside. Take a look. All right? Again, I'm going to give you an example. Okay, and this if you get this once, Rabbi, say you'll have it for the entire Talmud. Once you get it. Okay, let's take a look. I'm going to give you an example. Okay, let me give you an example. Here, take a look. Let's say the first thing I start out with, let's say God only wrote down that if I made a pit and damaged, I have to pay, and he wrote if my animal gores, I have to pay. Okay, from there, I can learn to eating, and I can learn to trampling, and I can learn to the fire. What? These damage you have to pay. These damage you have to pay. Okay. Let's just take one. Let's take one. Here. Let's take one. Let's just do one that works here. Let's take figure. Let's take figure 5. Figure 1 on 5. Okay. So source 1 is what? Source 1 is a pit, and source 2 is goring. Okay. So I say the derivative, let's say, which is what? Which is eating. This is a damager, and this is a damage you have to pay +1. You'll ask me a kasha, and you'll say, "Get out of here." He says, "Listen." He says the pit has +2. It's the second it comes into existence, it is a damager. Okay, but it's not true that every animal is born a damager. Okay, it's not true. It's not in position to damage. The second you build a pit, it's already in action. It's already low. It's already functioning as it's damaging. Okay.
There's a difference in Ruach Chaim and not Ruach Chaim.
Yeah, but I'm saying here, but eating an animal is not
Right.
not eating the second every single second. It's not happening till it does it. Don't worry. So take a look. Watch. So I go to source 2. Source 2 is goring. I show you what. It's also not from its inception a damager. So that proves that being a damager from the inception doesn't matter.
Right.
So therefore I can go back and what? And theoretically I could learn the law for what? For eating, for D. But I say slow down. Slow down. I have a problem. Because you use source 2 to prove that 2 doesn't matter. But source 2 had its own stringency. What is that? Okay. Okay, so you're using what? You're using Karen, the goring to show me what? That it doesn't matter, that it's not a damager from the inception, but it has a special quality number 3, which is what? That has intention to do damage. What? And eating doesn't have intention to do damage. It lacks 3. Say, don't worry, go back to source 1. Source 1 also lacks 3. The pit doesn't have intention to do damage. Nevertheless, it gets the law. So therefore what? Pit proves that intention to do damage 3 doesn't matter. Karen, source 2, proves that 2, that damaging from the inception doesn't matter. And if I go back, here, they're yours, and you have to watch them. So therefore what? I can get eating gets the law. You see what we just did? That goes on forever and ever and ever. We do the same thing over and over. See how I'm sorry if I didn't make it that clear, but that's what it is. If you go back, if you take the Rashi, you'll see you can do every single one the same way.
But the one major difference between Gora and the other, all the other things you have to own. It has to be your ox.
Well, yeah. So yeah. That's right. That's a piece that we have to discuss. Right. It's true. It's an anomaly. Yeah, it's a little bit of an anomaly, but it's considered like it's yours anyway. It's considered like it's yours. All right. I will say thanks. I'm sorry if I should have been more awake, but anyway, good. Thank you. Great. All right. Yeah.
I feel sorry for you. You have to explain this to
It works.
It does.
It does work. I appreciate the confirmation. It does.
No, the question is, use of language implies that but there are aspects of one that don't apply to the aspects of another,
Yes,
or characteristics of
Right.
one that don't apply to behavior. So when you have it, and given that situation, when the
source,
second source of damages,
Yeah.
okay, is presented, even though this one has unique characteristics and this one has some unique characteristics, it doesn't mean that they don't end up in the same requirement.
exactly, because because the peculiar characteristics can cancel each other. That's the key issue.
Instead of showing them formally,
Yeah.
sort of the Venn diagram, then it might be easy, because then you easily see the commonalities between them and the uniqueness. Thank you.
I never argue with them. It works. Great. Let more power to you. Please, let's try it. More power to you.